New card. What do you think?
Get over here!
Hadouken!
That man is playing Galaga.
I understood that reference.
You shall not pass!
So say we all.
Ride with me?
It's adamantium tasting time, boys!
Well, make it so, number one.
All wings reporting.
And welcome to your weekly interval. This is the Best Damn Nerd Show. I'm your host, microphone alchemist James Kincaid. With me today, Imperial Commissar Jeff Budd.
BDNS purists are confused because, according to the canon, I was devoured by Armie Hammer.
You somehow survived.
Maybe I'm in Elseworlds Jeff Budd, who is now just going to be a regular part of the show, and we don't even talk about how the original Jeff Budd was killed. That's the end of his story.
The original Jeff Budd could have been killed in the Great Spice War that he went off to fight.
Oh, that's true. Oh, man, this is like Rick and Morty.
You could be
crap
Jeff Budd
where
number
there's too
3.
many different dimensions.
You're like the elf in our Hero Quest games. But welcome back to the show, Jeff. And Chief Science Officer of Star Labs, Daimyo of the Crane Clan, Mark Trex.
Hello, for honor. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. I'm very excited for this particular episode of the Best Damn Nerd Show. In getting ready for it and thinking about it, it is something that is so near and dear to my nerdy heart and part of my upbringing, my socializing, some of my fondest memories. We were talking about customizable card games, trading card games, games like Magic the Gathering, L5R, the Star Wars customizable card game, and the like. We are going to be getting into that today. And, I think we've touched on it in other episodes and times past and stuff like that a little bit, but this is going to be a deep dive into some of our favorite games, some of the games that sort of certainly shaped me and my upbringing, and some of my favorite moments of glory and moments of failure here on the Best Damn Nerd Show. But before we get into that, we have to update you all on our latest bracket battle, sports versus esports. It was the semifinals this week.
I forgot to vote.
See, now you can't complain, bro. But it worked out almost according to plan, with 2 sports facing off for the right to go to the finals and 2 video games for the right to go to the finals. And so what happened was it was the 1 seed football taking on the Cinderella story Davis's champion, the 6 seed hockey. And on the video game side of things, it was the 2 seed League of Legends taking on the 4 seed fighting games. And I think, to the surprise of no one, football danced all over hockey's face and is going to the finals. And also to the surprise of no one, because it was a 4 seed, but it's been playing like a 1 seed. Fighting games absolutely trounced League of Legends. And so the finals are now football versus fighting games. Your thoughts, Jeff? We'll start with you.
I voted for League of Legends and hockey.
So you're not a happy camper here today. Why'd you vote for hockey? I'm surprised by that.
Just to be a dick. No, I'm kidding. I voted for football and fighting games. This is fine. I still wish that StarCraft had lasted a little longer, but if we're talking about the finals now, I mean, fighting games would have eventually had to win out, so it's probably all right.
Yeah, I think it's gone pretty much in terms of this final matchup. When we started this, fighting games and football were the 2 that I figured would make it. Of course, I was hoping that pro wrestling would have a Cinderella run. It made it past 1 round, but no further than that.
Yeah, because you cheated for it.
I didn't cheat for it.
Typical
And
bracket.
first of all, the Illuminati
made
Fortnite, a 1 seed and one of the most
Fortnite
popular
that nobody
games.
in BDNS plays, listeners or
the
hosts.
listeners definitely do. Anyway, we can break that down.
We have too old of a listenership.
We need to work on that.
That's why the podcast is dying.
That's why we're talking about customizable card games.
Yeah, exactly. God, imagine if that had been in the bracket, would have been a 1 seed. Mark, what did you didn't vote? But what do you got for football and fighting games? Who you got?
I mean, I feel like it's going to be football. At the end of the day, when you put these 2 things together, football's going to win out. It is, despite baseball and the propaganda they share, football is really America's pastime. We're all getting together for the Super Bowl, this weekend in spirit. Tommy Brady is probably the greatest thing to walk this earth in generations. So, yeah, I think it's definitely going to walk away with a win over fighting games. If fighting games is too general, too
Too broad.
Well,
for
I think
you.
that's also
Yeah.
kind of its asset, though. Is everybody's a fan of
Look,
some
I was-
fighting game.
It's
was
like the
almost
United
unfair
States.
for it to just be fighting games to a certain degree. But
Yeah,
I'm going to vote for football.
Yeah, are we talking like Clay Fighter here, or Virtua Fighter? Or,
I think
or-
it's
Virtua
more
Fighter for sure.
the traditional competitive fighting games like Smash, Street Fighter, Tekken, those kinds of games.
Mortal
But
Kombat.
yeah,
Dead or
You
Alive.
say Smash first, and you didn't mention Mortal Kombat. What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
I was playing Justice League
I thought
Task
Smash
Force.
Brothers was a party game.
It's everything. We should have had a party game
It's
century.
even StarCraft at this point.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But yeah, I'm
Kerrigan is a
excited.
trophy.
I hope the chaos that has ensued in this bracket battle has pleased our listeners in the Discord. It's been a lot of fun seeing the discussion going on, and I gotta say, the reaction to last episode has been amazing to see. Mark, your Army Hammer Cannibal game is very, very well received. I have to give you kudos once again for that. Seeing that the reaction to that, I forget who commented, but I think it was Jeff. I forget his last name, but he said that imagine this being the first best damn nerd show that you listen to. That see this Army Hammer Cannibal quote game, and then they're talking about stocks, which is something we have never done and probably will never do again.
Quite eclectic, and boy, how has that dovetailed.
I need an
Diamond
update
hands,
on.
Mark.
Right? Chris mysteriously absent today.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need a Davis update on how much money he's lost to the moon. I feel really
Hopefully
bad
not
for that
much.
guy.
Yeah, I think of Chris every time I look at the numbers. Eesh.
Yeah, I don't even know what the numbers are. Right? Has it all just bottomed out?
No, I mean, well,
Are they holding strong?
When Chris bought in, it's a problem. If you were able to buy in early enough, then GameStop is still way overly priced. But I think it was like $50-something or whatever when I
On
last
Thursday
took a look.
it was.
Yeah, and then AMC is it never emerged into anything really. If you were able to sell it when it was at $20 a couple of times, then great. Other than that, I think it's around 5 again. I think it was 7 something.
So we should get in now.
Jump on now.
Nowhere to go but up, right? Come on, guys.
To the moon.
To the moon. Well, my dad's happy I told him to invest in WWE stock. That's about the extent of my knowledge. Is that he'll text me whether it's doing well or whether it's doing poorly, and he'll either be very, very proud of me and very complimentary, or he will be sort of denouncing me for forcing him to invest in that stock. But
Goddamn hell.
Yeah,
Royal
so no,
Rumble just happened.
yeah, that's right.
WrestleMania's on the horizon. Things are looking up. I'm
they're
assuming.
moving off the network to Peacock.
Yeah, I saw that. The network
It's-
finally failed, Vince.
No, it didn't. It's a huge move for them. It was like
Did NBC buy it out or something?
$1 billion deal over 5 years for them to be on Peacock. And you think about it, that they're going to be on an NBC streaming platform, which means other people besides wrestling fans will be on Peacock. The people that still want to watch The Office. I think there's a better chance of people to discover the content on there.
Yeah, I was
now.
gonna say,
So
what
There
else
should only
is on
be a few
Peacock?
streaming services. Yeah, they've got The Office. They've got I don't know, whatever NBC owns.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
NBC Universal. It's a lot, Mark. Don't just. shake
I
your
don't
head.
know. I don't know. HBO Max is all I need.
They got
HBO
WWE.
Max is great.
HBO
but
Max is
It's
great.
also, I think, kind of expensive. We have it at a discount right now, but I don't know if I'm gonna. If I ever have to pay full price, it's not gonna happen. But I
to
don't think
pay full
anybody ever
price.
pays full price for HBO unless they forget they have it. That's just always been the deal. The Sopranos has been great to rewatch, though.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I got that
Season
90s,
3
early
right now.
2000s nostalgia. Oh, I'm still on season 2.
Yeah, everyone
Well,
else should start watching The Sopranos too. We're
When are we
having
doing
a
our
Sopranos episode?
Yep.
Wow,
Let's do our
Jesus.
Sopranos bracket as well.
Wow, but we
I'm
should do
not
like an
voting for Tony to win. I'll tell you that.
an
right now.
HBO show bracket or
I'm going
something like
Pauly.
that.
I'm
Sopranos
a
would be
Pauly guy.
Sopranos
Pauly's
would be a one
everybody's
seed in the
Pauly guy. You
HBO
gotta
bracket,
be a
right?
Pauly guy. Wait, what's up?
Sopranos would be a one seed in HBO shows bracket, right?
Oh, easily.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, there are those of us who love Oz, but Sopranos is Sopranos, especially with Game of Thrones week ending.
Oh yeah,
Like Sopranos. That was
Yeah, see
consistent
how much
throughout.
that
I mean,
would
I know
cost.
the last episode's a little controversial, but I think for the most part it's looked at
No
favorably now.
spoilers. No spoilers.
Also that brings us. There's now a spoiler channel in the Discord, by the way. So
I had to mute that.
Yeah.
Is that like the most active channel?
I have watched 2 episodes of WandaVision. And
okay.
I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I care it's spoiled for me or not.
I don't. I mean, I'm caught up, but I also don't care if it's spoiled for me. Like, I'm enjoying WandaVision, but it's like they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and I don't care if I find out about it too. It's the same thing. It's like nice to have on in the background and everything, but I'm not sort of glued to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I haven't gone back to it. I also think John made a lot of good points about WandaVision, but at the same time, it's like, as long as I'm enjoying watching it, then who cares? You know, I don't need to dissect a show or a movie to the point of, you know, if it works or not. If it's entertaining me, then it works.
And it gave us an excuse to talk about some old sitcoms, which I appreciated.
Yeah,
so.
That you did appreciate. See, I haven't even gotten, because it kind of moves up a decade every episode or something like that. See, like 80s and especially 90s. I mean, those are the sitcoms that I love. Did they get what is Cody's name? Is it Misha or whatever? Does he do a cameo and he lives in their driveway in a van? Because that would be the best. Because Step by Step is choice.
I'm not going to spoil anything plot wise.
Or did they get TV's Patrick Duffy to stop by?
But we do get a Growing Pains open.
Oh,
it's awesome.
I wanted, this was vetoed immediately. I wanted a slideshow at my wedding with the Growing Pains theme, which Jennifer and I having pictures growing up. Jennifer said, absolutely not. I love that show.
That's a great show.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
He's a barnstormer. Fucking lying about his summers. God, Alan Thicke too. What a great TV dad.
Did he write that song? I know he wrote a lot of TV.
I think he may have, but Growing Pains was a great show.
It's weird to think that Alan Thicke wrote a bunch of television songs. I always just knew him as the wise dad,
Mr. Seaver.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
was he a therapist or whatever? He worked out of the house.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think only the mom had to commute to work.
Yeah. Great show. And so you do get a Growing Pains open on WandaVision. But back to the task at hand. The final brackets are set. It will be football taking on fighting games in the finals. So we will go ahead and put that in the Discord and vote and see who comes out on top. I'm actually the only one here. I think fighting games is going to take down the whole thing. They've just had such a strong sort of voting block behind them. Their numbers are insane in terms of, the amount by which they have just decimated their competition at every turn. Right?
Well, because
football will be their greatest test.
Everybody likes some fighting games. You have to. And everybody's played some fighting games. And the BDNS and its older age demographic, we all remember what it was like going to arcades. And fighting games are always like the premier games at an arcade.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. So I think it's going to be a good test, though. A good final. It's the best thing we could have asked for, minus a Cinderella run by professional wrestling, which I know all of us here wanted that. A great deal.
Somehow it can still win.
It's going to come in. It's going to cash in its money in the bank and get into the finals. You can't just cash it in whenever you want. We're going
to. It's like if you've already voted for fighting games, you can't vote again in the.
Yeah, exactly. If you've already voted for football or fighting games, you can't vote again. So.
Ace in the hole. Mark forgets to vote. We still
got somebody to defend
us against.
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we are going to get into today's topic du jour, which, of course, is trading card games, customizable card games, whatever you want to call them. We're going to share some stories, some of our favorites on the other side of the Best Damn Nerd Show. It's the microphone alchemist Bimbo Jimbo here, of course, formerly the Jedi Master, and we are so happy to be back delivering to you the nerdy content that you need to make it through your Muggle work week. And we want to hear from you, Nerdosphere, so be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Zunes, or other non-name brand MP3 playing devices everywhere, or however you consume your weekly interval. Whether you agree with me that The Last Jedi was a crime against Star Wars, or that you think that my hosting warrants being mauled by a bear, leave us a 5-star review, make us laugh, smile, or cry in that review, and there is a good chance that you will hear it read on a future episode of the Best Damn Nerd Show. So be sure to rate and review us. It's the best way that you can help the BDNS keep saying it loud and proud for years to come.
Hey everyone, Chris Seglia here, CEO of the Tenno Media Network. I would like to say thank you for checking out one of our podcasts, but we need your help. You can support Tenno in a multitude of ways. By going to our website and checking out our latest podcasts, by buying some sweet merch, joining our Discord, or getting early and exclusive access to all content via our Patreon. Your support means the world to us, and you can find everything on our website, www.ten-o.gg. That's ten-o.gg. Thank you again, and now, back to the show.
It's me, Iron Nerd Min-Maxer, Hanzo Gonzo, inviting you into the Tenno Media Arena to see whose nerdiness will reign we're gonna get sued if you will triumph a lotly. Come check out all the battles on the Tenno Media Network Patreon, or you can just skip to the parts where Steve physically breaks something for no reason. See you there.
Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. James Kincaid alongside Jeff Budd and Mark Truex. And now it is time to get into the main topic of why we're here today, talking about card games. And before we talk about the specific games that we, would come to play and everything like that, I want to talk about sort of our first experiences in even like seeing them, what got us into it, where did we get into it, and everything like that. And Jeff, we'll start with you, I guess. What was your real introduction to the sort of this style of game, and what drew you to it?
I remember all of this basically happened in middle school. So it was like one of those rainy days, and so some people were in the library, and I went to join them, and they had their binders of Magic the Gathering cards with them, and they were just sort of thumbing through the pages. And if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, it's known for its beautiful art more than anything, so it's eye-catching.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't have any card games. I think I had Garfield War. That was like the only card game I have ever played before, where it's him wearing an army helmet and he's standing next to all the different numbers if you play the game War. So, I mean, something like that just looked fantastic. And that's also around the time that the original trilogy of Star Wars movies came back out into theaters, and I remember that trading card game coming out, and I used to collect those cards just because I liked looking at pictures of the movie and then the flavor text, historical text or whatever at the bottom, so you learn about different characters in the cantina, because I never read the books, I never read the comic books or anything like that, so the Star Wars movies was all I knew besides whatever I had come up with in my imagination. And so those cards opened up a whole other world to me. And then also I used to sing in the choir, and so like after school with practice, some of my friends had Magic the Gathering cards, and so I would watch them play. And like I remember my friend Steve, he had like his forests out, and he was talking about how he had to tap them for mana to cast spells, and I just thought that was like such a cool thing. And just also what land cards look like. I don't know, with the tree symbol and the picture of the forest. I thought all of it was so awesome. Yeah, but I didn't take the plunge for like a few years after that. But I mean, it all looked really cool.
Yeah, that I think that's probably a shared experience for a lot of people. The binders, and certainly what you said about Star Wars, I will revisit in my own experience. Mark, what was it for you? Was it Star Wars as well? I mean, Mark and I growing up together, we have a lot of shared experiences and commonalities here that we will get into. But what was it for you, Mark? Because there was a time before we even knew each other. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember card games before 5th grade though. So most
what
of
about
my
4th grade when we met?
Got jokes. Yeah, most of my card gaming experience was really playing with you, and I grew up collecting a bunch of different sport cards and then comic book cards, and that's where I think I first ran across that you could do something more than just look at them, and there's something playable. And it was with I believe it was Magic and Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. And I remember Magic in middle school, maybe like 6th, 7th grade, something like that. I got into it a little bit, but really Star Wars is what I think kicked it off for me. Big thing was the flavor text in there for sure, just learning more of the characters' names and different things about the different planets. Like I remember like Kishik being like first like into my mind was from the cards. Like, oh, that's the planet of the Wookiees. Awesome. Like, and getting more of that experience, because I was a big fan of different books and things of that nature. And so getting to get some visual representations and more backstories of the aliens that are in the cantina and things like that was great. But what I think I went really full hog into was with Legend of the Five Rings, as that started coming around, because it's similar in scope with Star Wars, but I felt like there was so much more dimensionality to it with having multiple decks and multiple clans that you can play. It wasn't just light versus dark, and you could have multiplayer, games and duels and things like that. And the art, just similar to how Magic the Gathering was, I think the art on Legend of the Five Rings is exquisite, and something about like feudal Japan and that kind of mythos for me is really gets my goat.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think L5R, which I have a lot of fond memories of playing and experiences with, it combines a lot of what made the Star Wars game so appealing, with the lore and the flavor text and stuff, and the sort of the character backstory that you could get just from picking up a card, and the just wonderful artwork of like a Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. And the imagery from the movies are great. Obviously I love Star Wars, but the idea of like this whole new world that you got to experience with this lore was awesome as well. For me, Star Wars, the collectible card game, was my first foray into it as well. And like Jeff and Mark talked about, it was the idea of that, like, I always loved the Rebel pilots growing up. So that I get this gold leader card, and the flavor text area, it's like fleshing out the backstory of this character, John Dutch Vander, and a little bit about where he was from, and then with some flavor text and everything. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like Major Bren Derlin from Hoth, the guy that John Ratzenberger played. And there's like a throwaway line on his Star Wars card, says at the Mos Eisley Cantina, everybody knows his name. Just stuff like that. The Star Wars game blew my mind for that, and it made it so. I remember, Mark, vividly, you like Tyree because of the Star Wars card game. Gold 2 was
That's
your
right.
as he holds up Tyree right now to the camera. It's a shame we're not recording video today, but that was, I will always remember that I was a John Dutch Vander guy, and you were a Tyree guy. And the fact that we both like the Y-Wing pilots too, always, good egg, Mark. Good man.
Gotta do those bombing runs.
But, growing up in Pacific Grove, California, there was where it first started to grow was at Rich's Comics and Cards, which is where I first started buying them at. And this is something I wanted to talk about before we dive into each individual game. But one of the things about the card games and everything like that is the booster packs, is buying the booster packs by hand. I don't know if it was this way for you guys, but reaching in and selecting your own pack, like feeling it, like the heart of the cards idea is like, oh, this feels a little thicker, so maybe
it's like
this
gambling. It was gambling for kids.
It is. It was. I'm sure. My parents thought it was stupid, and that it was like such a carny game that we were getting taken advantage of with. But did you have any sort of system with the booster packs that you would buy or anything? I always would go towards the bottom. Like the legend was that like the better packs were sort of towards the bottom, and you could it felt a little heavier, just slightly. You had to almost could feel it like a heartbeat. But Jeff, did you have any sort of system or feelings on that?
No, I mean, I guess if I had any system, it was to just try to blunderbuss it and buy as many as I could, like in one go. That's why I was a huge fan of like the Magic the Gathering fat packs, where it's like you get 15 boosters, like a bunch of lands, you get the 20-sided die, and also you get like the Book of Lore for whatever the story is for that time. It's like, I feel that's the way you have to do it. Hit hard, hit often, and you'll get a couple of good things. I also used to... I kind of hate that blind buying just theme in the first place. It just always kind of drives me a little nuts as a completionist. So I always liked the pre-constructed decks where you looked and saw every single thing that it was on. So it's like I would always try to get certain pre-constructed decks that were for the most part going for the theme I liked, and then I would interchange certain cards and make it my own. And that was always a lot of fun too, is having that deck and constructing it your own way. I like designing things and putting the cards in and out and looking and play testing it, seeing what works, what doesn't. That was always the best for me. Like, I mean, our ideas with Innistrad, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to do one of these decks. I'm going to do a vampire black-red deck. You'll
do nothing and like it.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what happened with Innistrad. We played for a little while, and then
We played all throughout Innistrad. It was great.
No, we had a good run with that storyline. But I mean, yeah, those were basically my strategies with the Magic the Gathering cards. Same with Pokemon, I guess, when I was playing that too. Buy the ones that I knew what I was getting, and then whatever I picked up, try to make it fit.
It's funny that you bring that up, and I didn't play Magic until later in life. So by the time that I got into Magic, I was definitely much more of a, look at the card lists and what they all did. And by that time, I was definitely an experienced card game player and sort of very much so a strategist. So looking at sort of a mechanic that I liked in Innistrad and then looking up, okay, what else works with that mechanic and buying specific cards, which Magic is very unique in that sense that a lot of those cards are readily available on eBay and elsewhere to get. And some of them are very expensive cards. Some of them are not. The ones that when we were playing, it's not like we were buying anything super rare. So I definitely was a much more tailored deck person with Magic. But man, the booster pack grabbing, Mark, did you have a system?
Especially with like L5R, I would pick up decks because every time they released a new expansion, there was always like new different starter decks. So I'd start there and I would always go Crane or Unicorn and then marrying the two different decks together. And then booster packs was just like, as soon as you had some spare change, get out there and pick something up. But I tried to go to as many different, sets as possible. I didn't always keep going back to Ambition's Debt or things like that. If there's different sets that were coming, because it was almost like every 3 or 4 months there'd be a new one. And the way I thought of it is like, well, now I can get a chance at getting a peek at something else unique and different. And especially with L5R, that there, just as Magic, how there's so many different clans you could play. Eventually you get that card that then makes sense to now have a Scorpion deck or have a Shadowlands deck and things like that. So I would kind of just be all over the place for the randomness.
Well, also the thing with L5R too is that the story advanced with each expansion too. Like that's how you learned about certain things that were happening in the game. And we'll get into more of that in a few minutes here. But I definitely wanted to bring up the idea of grabbing the booster packs, because there were some times where it's like the disappointment when the guy at the shop would just grab it for you and not even give you the option. It'd be such a bummer.
Like he was holding on to that one.
I'm paying for these cards, like
I don't like buying things that are behind the counter. I like to be able to look around and I don't have to ask anybody for anything, and it's like I feel like Magic the Gathering was always behind the counter too. It's like, ugh. Let me touch the stuff. Let me do it. I'll bring it to you when I'm ready to buy.
We're going to talk about a card game called Raw Deal, which is a pro wrestling card game, and they had.
No wonder Davis isn't on today. A lot of pro wrestling talk.
No doubt. But they had something called, and I'm sure this exists in other card games as well, but in the Raw Deal vernacular, it was known as a God Pack. And that God Pack was so in Raw Deal, you had your standard common, uncommon, and rare booster packs, right? Like you'd get a certain amount of common cards, certain amount uncommon, and one rare per pack.
I love
it. There are also packs in which you could, instead of a rare, or maybe in addition to a rare, you would get a foil. And those were like getting a foil card was very rare. But on the rarest
like
of the rare, exactly. And it's like a superstar specific card for a certain like character, like a Kurt Angle's Olympic Slam or whatever.
Gotcha.
But the rarest of the rare packs were the God packs, and that pack consisted of only foils. So you'd be like, for like a given like expansion set, there's a good chance you'd be opening up a pack that would have essentially every character's super rare card for that set. It's just like, so if you pulled a God pack, it was like Count of Monte Cristo, like kings to you, like you are the charmed one for this period of time. And it's my buddy Ray, I think he pulled like he had a hot run where he pulled a few God packs seemingly in a matter of a couple of months, which was unheard of. Like
that's insane.
I've gotten a God pack before, and it's like there are people who've never gotten them because they're so rare. But that's why I guess that's why I bring up the grabbing like for which ones, because especially with that dynamic introduced, like, dude, if I grab it, what if this is the God pack, so it's like when you're feeling the Raw Deal cards, like, can I detect that slight curvature that occurs because it's the foil, because the foils by nature of the printing, they were slightly a little bit not quite as perfectly flat as the rest of the cards. It's insane, but yeah, that's why I want to make sure that I brought that up. But let's talk about some of the games. Let's start with Magic: The Gathering, and Jeff, I'm going to kick it over to you in a moment. But Mark, you mentioned in middle school it popping up and everything like that. Mark, do you remember when Magic: The Gathering burst onto the scene with us? There was like controversy surrounding it, that there was this idea similar to like Dungeons and Dragons with Magic: The Gathering, that it was, anti-God and pro-Satan and just like all this like.
There was like pentagrams on cards and things like that. Definite Satan worshiper stuff.
I don't see
of losers playing it.
I remember our friend Nick was playing it, who was a very troubled young man as well. So like the fact that he played it combined with the sort of anti-religious propaganda that was coming out surrounding the game, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want anything to do with this Magic: The Gathering game.
It was taboo.
It was taboo. Was it taboo at all down where you were at, Jeff?
Not that I remember, other than, I think just playing with that kind of stuff is sort of dorky to the masses anyway, so I think that was the taboo. I do know that there are certain cards that, Wizards of the Coast have sort of discontinued and distanced themselves from, because maybe it's just like culturally insensitive. A lot of that happened with Arabian Nights, which I think was like its first major expansion.
Cut off an ear if you don't like your face.
The card
it's barbaric.
Like they don't, you can't play that anymore. You can't sell that anymore. And there's another one like Crusade and things like that. Like, yeah, they had some kind of I don't know. Maybe they just didn't age the best. So those parts, but I don't remember anything with like pentagrams exactly. Or
I haven't really run afoul of anything like that.
That. It really is just like more fantasy.
Yes.
Stuff. But I also feel that's just sort of par for the course. Whenever you have those types of things, that it's going to get that sort of backlash and label.
Yeah, well, it definitely impacted the fact that I did not play it for many years. So, and I don't think it was well deserved. Like you said, it's mostly fantasy. And going back and looking at older cards, I don't really see any evidence of that. I think it was just parents misunderstanding what was going on.
No, I think Magic: The Gathering is pretty generic, which is one of its strengths. There's always going to be something that you like about it. You know? There's a little something for everybody if you're into that type of genre in the first place. And then, we'll talk about the story in a second, but, the different planes, the different worlds or dimensions you can travel to are vastly different. They're doing the one that's kind of like Skyrim now. They tried to, I think, get in on the Legend of the Five Rings market with like that Japanese world, but it was like too late at that point. Legends of the Five Rings was too established. The Greek mythology one. Like I said, they have the Arabian Nights one. So yeah.
So how did you first get into Magic? What was your intro into it?
I got it
what
as
did you play?
Christmas
I love hearing you tell like the stories of which worlds you gravitated towards as well.
Yeah, I received Magic: The Gathering Portal as a Christmas gift one year, and Portal is one of those things where you open up the box, you can play the game. It has 2 small decks that can play against each other, and one of the booklets that comes with it even tells you what to do turn by turn for the first few turns so that you get into the rhythm of playing it. And the cards are already shuffled the way they want you to have them shuffled for the first game. So, it really just walks you through it. And then after that, you can do whatever you want. And this would have been around the time of 7th edition. So think like very early 2000s. And there were actually commercials on TV for Magic: The Gathering where it's like the Raging Goblin and like the trained Orc or something like that. And I had both those cards. And I just remember that. And it looked cool. So I was happy to get it. And then it was the kind of thing that I didn't even play it right away. But then when I did play it, I got really into it because of the artwork. And then I was, talking to my friends about it. And some of them had played it like maybe years back. And so they still had a bunch of cards. But, they hadn't been playing it. So they brought those cards out. And then we all started getting into buying cards. And we would go to, different comic and hobby shops like on the weekends. That's when we do the research against each other. And we would play the different games. And so like the premise of the game is both of the players, or if you play a multiplayer one, which you can easily do, you're all what they call planeswalkers, which is where you're like a powerful wizard who has the ability to travel between worlds. And that's where you kind of meet these different creatures and learn these different spells. And the cards are the different spells that you cast against each other, and you're summoning mana or magic from the different lands, and it's, plains, swamps, mountains, forests, and islands, because there's the 5 different colors of magic: the white, black, red, green, and blue, and they all have different values and different strategies on what their decks would look like, and you can combine colors. I'm wearing my white mana shirt, which we got at Comic-Con for free.
Baby.
And white is what I've always been a fan of, obviously. It doesn't necessarily mean the good guys, but I mean...
Usually, though.
It usually is, and usually the good guys are somehow associated with white, but, it's about order, it's about, like purity. It's usually a lot of healing spells, small creature spells like soldiers and
white
knights
weenie,
and
baby.
things like that. Yeah, exactly. Hey, those white weenie decks work, man.
They do.
You have a ton of... And also what I like about, like, if we're talking about different mechanics of cards, I like cards that work together. Like the soldiers, that
synergy.
the more of them that are on the deck, or like on the table playing together, it's like they strengthen one another. So it's like those types of strategies are really good. And then I'm trying to think what some of the others do. Black, of course, is like death and decay, and it does a lot of like damage or creature destruction spells. And sometimes you can cast spells, but at the expense of your own life rather than just tapping mana. So you can play powerful spells fast, but it's high risk, high reward. And red, of course, is haste. It's damage dealing. It's fast paced, and it's strong and hard hitting, and that's like your greenskins, your dragons. And forest is a lot of nature healing, a lot of being able to collect a lot of mana because you can collect it from different ways. That's where a lot of your elves and druids are from. And then blue is like the neutral, because it's both kind of like black and white. It's more science based, and it's more just your regular magic based. And I like blue a lot because it's a lot of fucking with the other player with,
no doubt,
those instant cards where it's like, I just canceled the spell that you played.
Yeah, I was going to say cancel is like a blue card classic.
Yeah, that's a total blue thing. Yeah. And then you have like the colorless cards like artifacts and things like that, which are just more like mechanical contraptions, whether it's weapons, armor, vehicles, all sorts of random shit. So I mean, you can do all sorts of fun stuff with Magic. I love the customizability.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I too gravitate towards white was my preferred deck when I got into Magic, and you got me into it. And I think the first
Shards of Alara.
Yeah, Shards of Alara. I definitely got into that. Rafik of the Many, which was the name of my first World of Warcraft character, was like this really badass soldier character in the Shards of Alara.
Yeah, he was like a knight,
stories.
Wasn't he? I mean, he was a champion.
Yeah, he was a champion, and there was just this cool world of knights and stuff riding around on like lion mounts, like leotaus and stuff, and and it was so awesome. And there's just some really cool mechanics in that set, like Devour and things like that, or Exalted, that it really got into. But I think my favorite block, and we talked about it already a little bit, is Innistrad, was the Gothic horror block that. I think at that point in time, that's when you, like the J team, you, me, and John, we really leaned into Magic hard in Innistrad together, and that was a lot of fun playing those.
Because it was at that Comic-Con where they were first unveiling the story, and then it was perfect timing where it comes out like early October, so it's all like Halloween themed, and yeah, it's this like dark world where humanity is an endangered species, and they've got just a few places that they're holding out. But they are, affronted on all sides, and you can do ghosts and werewolves and vampires. And werewolves were barely in Magic the Gathering prior to that release, so that was really cool. And yeah, we gravitated towards it because we liked all of that stuff. We wanted, of course, to do our human decks where we're fighting back against the forces of darkness, but there were certain monsters that we all appreciated too. And I liked their take on different things. If you're doing like a black zombie deck, then it's more your necromancy, rising from the grave zombies. But if you're doing a blue deck with zombies,
it's like Frankenstein.
It's more your Frankenstein because it's more a scientific-based zombie. And the Stitchers, the people that were grave robbing and stitching bodies together and reanimating them, traitors to humanity, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff was excellent. And they had
it
some
started
really
off
cool
so
zombie
strong.
decks.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite cards in all of gaming is the Champion of the Parish. It's got the great flavor text. He's this just a 1/1, but he's strengthened every time another human comes onto the field of play.
Yeah, he gets
and
those 1/1 counters.
yeah, it's so like I knew immediately because he also looks awesome. He's like in this suit of armor, but with like a tri-cornered hat. And the flavor text is he's got this badass like guts berserk sword. I stand for every cobbler, tanner, and fool in the town, and they stand for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yup, that's my dude.
Yeah, see, I was a fan of Hamlet Captain, who was a green creature. He was 2/2, so he was just some soldier from like some town. And he goes, "I would fear you, bloodsucker, were I alone," because he gets like bonuses from other human characters on the field too. So that stuff was great. Yeah, I loved that. And the Elite Inquisitor, who was immune to vampires, werewolves, and zombies, so they couldn't do damage to him, and he just destroys all of them. Excellent character, just really cool creatures. And yeah, you mentioned the tri-corner hats because like the era in that world is supposed to be like, you know, like colonial type technology, so they have a really cool look to them too. The aesthetics are great.
Mark, did you play Magic?
I played a little bit in middle school, and it was pretty brief, but one of my biggest regrets in card games is that I clearly remember selling off all my Magic cards for like I think it was $7. And to this day I regret it, Isaac.
You probably made a fortune.
But it was fun. It was fun back in the day, and I liked red and blue, but I never got terribly deep into a lot of the lore of it, just kind of the different beasts and things like that. And I think ultimately, I was frightened. I was frightened of it.
Well, I think for Magic, it is a relentless game. Like they just keep coming out with set after set after set.
That's
and I
how
think
it survives. Yeah,
that's how it survives. But
and the tournament cycles.
For me, is that the one thing about Magic though is after a certain point, certain cards become not standard legal anymore, and I just wanted to stay in Innistrad, but the game, you know, has to keep moving on. So that's sort of what lost me. And but I mean, I know they do go back and everything like that, but
yeah, I like it because they have like 5, 6 like official different play styles and rules and things like that. And I mean, if you're just playing with friends, who cares? So I don't really care about what's tournament legal or anything like that. I'm going to create my decks the way I want to create them. I'm never going to play in a tournament. That's not my style. And you know,
I like tournaments.
Well, I know you do, but you guys also, you're Legend of the Five Rings players, so you guys are more coerced into playing in the tournaments.
I don't play casually because when I do fight in tournaments, I don't want you to know what I'm capable of.
See, I was
one
never
of those
a tournament
characters
guy.
died in that book. The other one didn't.
What's that, Mark?
Yeah, I never played tournaments. I could never work myself up to do it. Whenever I felt like we would see people playing at some of the local game shops and stuff, they were way too heavily invested. And at a certain point, I felt like you had to buy a win. So I never got terribly
I think
into
that's kind of how
play.
I think that's
there
kind
is
of
an
how a game
aspect
is
of
designed
that.
because the rules do evolve because things are either turned out to be a little too overpowered and so they have to be phased out, or things like the way mechanics go, you know, eventually it's sort of useless compared to like what's going on in the future. And like if you look at the different skill sets and like abilities that cards have in Magic the Gathering, you see which ones, you know, don't exist anymore. Because it's either been improved upon or it just doesn't really make any sense. And they try to make it where it fits the flavor of whatever the story is. And the story arcs, I think they used to always be 3 acts. Now I think they've cut that down to only like 2 or something like that. And then one was like 4.
Mark is right though that there is I think all of those games. If you're going to play in tournaments, it's a min-max play. So it's the more you get, the more you can minimize your deck's weaknesses and maximize the strengths of how it's supposed to play. And like I enjoy that aspect because that lends itself more to the whole strategy of, you know, every card choice is important that goes into your deck and everything like that. The whole synergy, the combinations that you can get going. I mean, pouring over, especially with like raw deal, how like if they do this then I can do that kind of deal, or like if I get to this level of fortitude, like I can get out of range of these certain reversals or whatever and stuff like that. It all plays a part. And you bring up the sort of intensity of the local card shops, and I'm just going to take the opportunity to talk about it here. Epic Worlds in Pacific Grove, no longer around anymore, but I lived at this card shop for years, essentially, especially in the summertime. It was wake up, shower, go to Epic Worlds for opening, stay, break for lunch or dinner, stay until they close, days and days on end, and just playing card games. It's also where I experienced and got exposed to 40K, and that actually that may have predated, not Star Wars, but I think predated my playing L5R and stuff like that. I first started going to the shop, buying the 40K codexes and the models and stuff like that, and then I got exposed to L5R and things like that. But yeah, a shout out to Epic Worlds, because that was such a cool time for me. Made so many friends, some my own age, some much older, not in a weird way. They were just fellow card game players that were coming to this shop. And it was a really, really cool bonding experience, and really unique too for me at the time, that, getting to hang out with these people and learn from them and become a better player, and just having lots and lots of fun. I love that dynamic, and which is why it's like, because of Epic Worlds, I know I've joked about it with Jeff and Mark and stuff like that too. I would love to have my own card and hobby shop because of that experience, because I know the amount of joy that it didn't just bring me. I mean, there was a whole group of us that it was like, you guys go to Epic Worlds, like, we would all just congregate there, and that was our treehouse, that was our meetup spot. And so it was a very special thing to share. So I miss those days. It was a lot of fun. Let's circle back to Magic though. Jeff, do you have any tales to astonish or tales to admonish, your greatest successes and greatest failures of Magic the Gathering?
I was thinking about that. Like, I remember there was one deck that or a few decks that I really loved and was proud of in around like 2003 or so. So this would have been around during like Scourge, so like Kamal the Pit Fighter and things like that. I had my Chainer deck, and Chainer was this guy who could create these illusions that like came to life, and it was these nightmares. And so I had him, who was a legendary creature, and then I had all these nightmare creatures in my deck that he boosted, and then nightmares do awful things to you, the opponent. They either make you remove cards from play, remove cards from your hand, so it was constantly screwing you up as I was implementing more of these guys. And then the nightmares are stronger with Chainer there, so it was harder to remove them and get your cards back. And so it was a black-red deck. I really liked it. It made this one friend of mine like so frustrated that for the longest time he was creating decks designed specifically just to defeat that
metagaming
deck.
against you.
And he did get it. He figured out a good way to take it out. And that was so much fun, just our rivalry there, and him constantly trying to defeat Chainer. And Chainer is it was a name that we continue to bring up. He was a little Magic the Gathering celebrity. He was such a minor character in the story because he ended up getting killed. But like, we really got a kick out of him. And another deck that I was just really proud of, because with Magic the Gathering, I try to do bicolor or tricolor decks mostly. And it was this tricolor deck I did, where I think when I bought it, it was red and blue, or no, it was black and blue, and I introduced red to it or something like that. And I had this red, blue, and black deck that was just beautiful. It worked very consistently, whether I was worried about early game or late game, the amount of spells, creatures, the way I could heal myself, the way I could deal damage, my interrupts, things like that. Like, it was one of the best decks I think I ever designed. So for the longest time, I kept it intact because I could always go to it. It was kind of like my deck I would rely on, where if somebody humiliated me in a game, or like when we were doing our round robin tournaments, it's like I'd face them again with the red, blue, black after. It's like, I'm gotta put this one to rest. It was me powering up. And then thinking about like getting my ass kicked, like I have plenty of stories of that. I mean, if you're not getting your ass kicked in Magic the Gathering, you're not playing enough.
That is the one thing, is that Magic can have some pretty one-sided games.
Because I mean, kind of like you were mentioning before with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's hard at the cards, man. If you're drawing the right cards, that's part of it too. When you're designing that deck, you got to make sure that there's a lot of different ways that you can win. That's what I'm talking about. Early game, you need cheap spells that you don't need a lot lot of mana for, so that you can drop some stuff out early, and then you got to have
That's
your
why
heavy
I
hitters
prefer
and
mono
heavy
decks
spells later on. Yeah,
I prefer mono decks, because every land I draw is going to help me play my next thing.
Yeah, my only thing is I just feel that then it's too easy to design something to go against it. Also, friend of mine, it was this one card, I don't remember the name exactly. I think it was like Washout.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yep.
Yeah, you pick the one color and you wipe out all the permanents that are that color from the board. and it's just like a monocolor is decimated. You know, it's
Oh,
like that's what
of
it's all
course.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But it's a race against time and that person drawing that card.
yeah, well, he had like 4 in his deck because that's like the max you can have for like a unique spell. Because he was ready for monocolor decks, or also just to fuck somebody over. If you have a 2-color deck, that's still going to decimate like half your forces potentially. I also the dragon you always chase is the 5-color deck, and I did have a Spectrum deck for a little while. That I don't know if it ever really worked how I wanted. I think I just enjoyed the novelty of it. You know, it's like, well, what you do is you focus more on the green because green will get you the mana you need regardless. And then you have like those lands that give you multiple colors of mana instead.
Like
so you do a lot of that stuff.
Like that.
You play around there. Because the way I bought the deck, because it started as a 5-color and then I just made it much better, was it gave you a bunch of forests, but it only gave you like 2 mountains and 2 swamps. So it's like, good luck with that. But you draw like these elf druids that will let you just look through your deck for a specific basic land of your choice. And it's like, all right, now...
like Elvish Piper, right?
No, the Piper helped you with creatures. It was an Elvish Pioneer.
Okay.
Where she's like coming off the boat and like landing on a shore
okay.
or whatever. Yeah, that's exactly the card though. I did have Elvish Piper though. I think he tapped creatures, so like I
he did
put
something.
Them to sleep or something.
Yeah, he was
like
something really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bastard.
That was a cool card too. He had like Elvish bagpipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I mean, I remember plenty of times you kicking my ass with your champion of the parish deck.
Champion of the parish
you kicked
deck.
A couple of my monster decks asses. Like my werewolf deck never worked, but yeah, that was more John's passion than mine.
I didn't play a ton of tournaments for Magic, but I did play some tournament legal style decks at a different card shop after Epic Worlds closed, and they were the much more sort of gatekeepery type nerds and stuff like that. They're the shop that I went into. They were called Game Habitat. They were not nearly as cool. When I went into it and I wanted to learn about Dungeons and Dragons, and they were like the churn up their nose at me type, like, you don't already know? Like, and I was like, okay.
So we're not here to hold your hand and make money.
Yeah, exactly. So my Champion of the Parish deck, taking that in there and kicking their asses with it was a great experience for me. Because I had a very cool dynamic with it, and I'm not going to get too into the weeds on it, but that Champion of the Parish gets a bonus for every other human, but there was this card that was like the automatons, and you could choose what type of creature they were, and they gave bonuses to that type of creature. So I could bring them in as human, and it was just this centrifugal bonus thing going around. It just became a really tough combo to stop once it got rolling.
It was disgusting to watch because it was nasty. I remember you when you first played that against me.
Yeah, it was a cool dynamic, but I think the one thing I'll end on with the Magic the Gathering is the panel we were at with Comic-Con when they started giving those old booster packs to the fans in attendance there. I think it was the Arabian Nights booster pack.
They had random booster packs of also. I mean, they even had like alpha and beta booster packs.
I don't know if they X-rated or they hand put what was in there, but they're like, why don't you open up that booster pack? Because it's like discontinued cards, and he's like going through what the cards. I forget, he like named one card that was like pretty rare, and the crowd erupted, and they're like, why don't you keep going? And it's like Library of Alexandria, which is like one of the super rare cards, and I just remember the whole like panel crowd just like going ballistic that he got this card. Like the people at Magic the Gathering. They get it. So that was very cool to see. All right, let's talk about Pokemon. I didn't play a lot of Pokemon. My affinity for, or my memory of the Pokemon card game is, as Jeff said, people in binders bringing their cards, showing the different evolutions and stuff like that. But the main memory is, and he's a good guy. I want to start that off at the beginning. He's actually a good person. He just maybe had some bad, mischievous moments in middle school. But Mark, our friend Oscar, would be sort of the artful dodger, slipping some of the cards from these underclassmen's binders, stealing their Pokemon cards, and then like a week or two later would then sell them back to them.
What a prick.
Yeah, that's my
dude, you gotta catch them all.
That's my
they already caught him. He's like Team Rocket.
Yeah, my most vivid Pokemon card game memory is Oscar pilfering and then reselling them their own cards. Mark, did you play Pokemon, or Jeff?
I had gotten cards just because they were around all the time. and sometimes you would go to like ice cream shops or things like that, and there'd be just random cards in like a dispenser where it's like literally random cards. Maybe they're sport cards, maybe they're playing cards, things like that. And then it just always kind of popped up and around. And I thought they were cool because I liked the Game Boy games, but I never played it. Like, I thought it was neat having a card collectability wise and, seeing, a Jigglypuff or something like that. But
yeah,
I never actually played the Pokemon game.
Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, I played the game. This is actually the first trading card game I did play, like actually play it. Because I liked Pokemon the video game at the time, and it was still just like red and blue, so it was really basic, and I liked the 151 Pokemon. I remember I had a good like red and blue deck, so like fire and water Pokemon, and then I also had, I think it was like plants and fighting or something like that. I had like the Machamp, Machop, Machoke, Machamp, and I forget if I ever actually did have a Charizard or not. But yeah, I enjoyed all the cards. I used to play it with
Probably
friends.
had a little Charmander.
Oh, I had Charmander and Charmeleon for sure. And then like we used to play it at Barnes and Noble at like some of the tables in the background. We would just go there, or like in the back of the store, and we'd just go there and play.
Yeah.
But it was the kind of thing where it's like it was short-lived, where I played it for a little while, and I mentioned it in the outline where when Pokemon the card game came out, and this was, Pokemon, the surge was just insane. Pokemon was everywhere.
Yeah.
And so Artifacts, which was one of the hobby shops near me that I would go to, Pokemon was all the front of the store. And it's like, we sell Pokemon here, basically. Come in, buy our Pokemon. And so like Pokemon was a big deal, and we bought cards for a while and we played it. And I remember watching The Sopranos while I had all my cards out and I was making new decks back when those episodes were new.
Dude,
but then you kind of like phase out of it and you just forget it.
You and I are rewatching Sopranos, and I believe it's season 2, they do a Pokemon card heist where they jack a truck because it's loaded with Pokemon.
Oh, that's so funny. I haven't gotten to that part yet. No, I was watching one where it was it had to have been season 1, because it was Christopher and Brendan doing something stupid. Probably where they hijacked the truck with the suits or something like that. And I remember having all of my Magic cards, or not Magic, excuse me, all my Pokemon cards laid out, and I was deciding which ones to keep in, which ones to phase out, and it was really cool. Actually, I think it was even before I had played all of the video game, because I didn't know who Bill was yet. I had like the Bill card, and it's like you go and meet him in Cerulean City. So yeah, it was definitely, it was surreal to think about that I had the card before I had met him.
We're going to take one more break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some more of our favorite card games and some of our greatest moments, maybe our lowest moments of them, and also what would a BD&S card game look like on the other side on the Best Damn Nerd Show.
Hey nerd, Lore Master Tim here, and I've come with a rather indecent proposal. We want you to join in the conversation. If you aren't already a member of our Discord, what are you even doing? You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheBDNS. And if you're crazy, odds are we'll talk about it on the show, so get kooky, and above all, let's get nerdy.
It's the microphone alchemist Bimbo Jimbo here, and when I'm not verbally super kicking Last Jedi fans on the Best Damn Nerd Show, or fantasy casting The Rock in another movie on the DLC, well, that's when I actually get to talk about wrestling. That's right. Come join me in the Wrestling War Room, where I take my mic to the mat and launch my hot takes about the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT. The Wrestling War Room. Which side are you on?
Hey guys, it's the loquacious anime and manga lover Jahns here. Now I have watched a lot of anime, and I've read an abundance of manga, so you would think that I have a pretty interesting opinion on the culture. From classics like Golden Boy and Ghost in the Shell, to masterpieces such as Psycho Pass and Gantz. Come and join me as I talk about the world of anime and manga, which has had a huge impact on my life. And who knows, whatever I talk about and recommend to you guys could become one of your favorite series.
Ammo with Jammers.
Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. James Kincaid, Jeff Budd, Mark Trex, talking customizable card games, trading card games, whatever you want to call them. Let's talk for just another brief moment about the Star Wars, the customizable card game, and its sort of importance we talked about the flavor text and everything like that. It was Markinai's intro, and was it yours as well, Jeff, in terms of collecting?
Collecting, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's been kind of the common theme until I went to Epic Worlds and started meeting people that actually played the game, because I maybe had more Star Wars card game cards than any other game I played. I played maybe a couple of games, and I don't think I played it correctly, because the rules of the Star Wars game, at least for my younger self, convoluted. So it was not it was a great game to collect and look at, and I love them in my binder and sort of like in my mind's eye. Oh, it'd be great to get Darth Vader and the Executor and all this stuff out on the board.
You had everyone.
I did.
Everyone.
I did. Yes, Mark can attest. I had like all of the cards.
Yeah, I'd be going up against like Darth Vader with like just like any old pilot from the cantina.
So I just wanted to make mention of the fact
Luke
that
comes
actually
in the starter.
It's
Like,
true,
yeah,
but
it's
it's not
Luke,
the
basic Luke.
Yeah, it is
Luke, where he's
basic
playing
Luke.
with his toy.
God,
Yeah.
and those great knowledge, and those disgusting white bordered ones that they came out with, like in their, I think it was when they did the first expansion or whatever.
Is
they
white
started
border
doing
so bad? I have a mix.
white border was
Dude, they
white
make me
white
sick.
border's like the disco. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't
Mark's
notice the
spot
difference till
on.
somebody brought it up. Yeah, that's
No,
it.
the white border is gross, dude. Nobody likes them. They're
Dude,
awful.
it's just
they
like,
almost
oh, that
killed the
looks
game.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get a black border. I don't understand why that is. Like, oh, cool card. Too bad it's a white border card. you
Yeah, that
louse.
would be worth something if it wasn't a white border, you trash.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate chase. Oh, you got that cool card. Well, it's not black bordered, and then
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
a foil bordered one.
Well, I'm wondering,
Yeah,
was
I didn't
white
like it.
border
I didn't
more
like it when they started
mass-produced?
introducing the foils.
As soon as they started doing foils, I'm like, this game has jumped the shark.
Yeah, absolutely. Although
Yeah, it
I
kinda is what that
still,
means.
I still am happy to have that Grand Admiral Thrawn card that they came out with like way later in the game's run when they started doing the expanded universe stuff. Just because I love Grand Admiral Thrawn. But I did want to make mention of Star
You should watch
Wars
Rebels.
for the white border, and for and for the fact that it was for us on this show nigh on unplayable, but it was important for us to collect so that we could get into other games like this one, the one that I maybe want to talk about more than any other because we all have a little bit of experience with it, and that is Legend of the Five Rings, aka L5R, aka one of the greatest games of all time. The storytelling in Legend of the Five Rings, the lore, it is so rich. It's a fantasy feudal Japan in the land of Rokugan. You get to pick your clan that you represent, and when I went into Epic Worlds, I went in there with the express purpose of getting more Star Wars cards, and the owner of the shop, Ron, started telling me about it. It's like, well, if you like card games, you should try out this it's relatively new. It's called Legend of the Five Rings. Like, it's about samurais and ninjas and stuff. And I was like, well, I like samurais and ninjas. Like, tell me more. Tell me more, Card Keep. And as it was with Legend of the Five Rings, and I think one of the things that's so unique about it is that there is this oral history that exists within Legend of the Five Rings because local tournaments that were storyline sanctioned, convention tournaments that were storyline sanctioned, shaped the game and how the story played out. And at this point in time, things had already sort of been happening in the game. So he was recounting to me like some of the things that were going on in Legend of the Five Rings. And I just want to sort of give some people that maybe aren't familiar with how that worked, why this game was so cool and so mind-blowing to me as a young person. So you have all these different clans. Mark gravitated towards the Crane clan. Jeff, I believe you gravitate towards the Crab. I myself was a Dragon clan player. We'll get into that in a minute. But there was this whole major storyline, the second day of Thunder, which was essentially all the forces of good, like these chosen members of each clan to fight the evil forces of Fulang. And at the convention, the tournament essentially was going to determine what ending happened. You had Shadowlands players, so evil could win. And then you had all the other clans, like each person that qualified, what clan they were represented, and eventually like was getting whittled down. And one of the people that worked for is AEG, right? That
Yes.
made
It's
L5R.
the original, yeah.
Yeah. So they had 12 envelopes to represent all the different factions that you could play that could potentially win this tournament. And this is being recounted to me. This guy had 12 envelopes, and every time a clan got eliminated, he would destroy the envelope, like burn the envelope. So no one would know how, if that clan had won, what could have happened. And so as it got whittled down, like there were only, I think, I'm trying to remember all the details of the story, but like 2 Naga players only, and they ended up facing off against each other. So, and this is the cool thing, and I was talking to Jeff off the air, is that because it's faction-based and clan-based, it encouraged the players to more than just play the game and strategize the game, but encourage you to role play your clan. And since it's based about honor, it welled up all these things in the player to where they really leaned into beyond just the game mechanics, but the actual flavor of the game. So these 2 Naga players, they were facing off against each other, and they decided, they talked to the tournament coordinators, and they're like, hey, we're not going to fight each other. We're going to play, I think it was like 10 turns or something like that. And like whoever has the largest army after 10 turns, the other will just yield to that player and say that they move on for the good of the Naga clan. And it's just like stuff like that. And the fact that the creators of the game were so like, yeah, that makes sense. We'll go with that. And that's what they did. And so in the very final, Dragon Clan had been eliminated, Crab Clan had been eliminated. It came down to, and this is, again, the heart of the cards and sort of talking about like games like Brimstone that somehow the game seems to know. It's crazy. But, and again, just remembering this story, the 2 clans that were remaining were the Crane Clan and the Lion Clan / Tottori's army. And those 2 characters, the Doji Hitori and Tottori, who led the Lion Clan, were childhood friends. So they are the 2 that are left standing, and like sort of their relationship is what had led to this clan war to begin with. And now they're the 2 left standing to face this great evil in Fulang. And the 2 players that were facing off, it's like, well, let's not see, like, whoever wins, because originally it was going to be like that they get to become the emperor or whatever and slay Fulang and all these great things. Like, well, how about instead who wins, they get to make the noble sacrifice and help defeat Fulang, and the loser actually is who becomes the emperor. And the game developers like, that's great. And so they played, and they burned both of the remaining envelopes and then just orally said what happened. So Hitori of the Crane Clan made this noble sacrifice, and Tottori became... It's fucking awesome. It's absurd. It was Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. It's just... It just like... So I'm just like being told these stories from the owner, from all these other players, like filling in the gaps, because there were newsletters that you could subscribe to for each clan. And so you only got the news from your clan's perspective. Like certain events that weren't even talked about, like the Dragon Clan, we're up in our mountains, so a volcano erupts and we had to like migrate from our lands. Like nobody else is talking about that shit in the other newsletters. It's this great oral history of L5R that is just, I've never really seen it done before or since to that level. And it was just mind blowing. So of course, me being heavy into like the role play and everything, I was like, this is awesome. I definitely want in on this. And that was sort of what really hooked me into L5R, was just the fact that I was like, what? Like the players shaping the game in this way, and one of them having the sort of the thought process to be so creative about it and go beyond just like, well, I just want to win at all costs kind of deal.
Yeah.
And some of the characters they created within it, like I want to shout out to the Mantis Clan, because the Yoritomo character, who is the Mantis Clan champion, he was essentially, they were a group of just minor clans that banded together.
Yeah, the Fox and a couple others.
Yeah, but there's this great quote, which is the Crane Clan champion. The nickname for Yoritomo was the Son of Storms, and the Crane Clan champion, the greatest duelist in all of Rokugan, says, I never knew fear until I saw the Son of Storms. And it's like, dude, that is like just the rich lore and all that stuff. And at one point, the Mantis Clan is like nearly dying, but they need more soldiers. And I forget who said, send me your 20 strongest. And it's like this great quote. I forget which card it was on the flavor text. He's like, he looked about his men, he turned and said, I am my 20 strongest. Like knowing he was going to die, but so his clan would live. Such great stuff. Anyway, L5R, one of my favorite all-time games. Super nerding out right now. But Mark, what did you love about L5R and what got you into it?
Well, definitely like with a lot of the story evolutions, I mean, you nailed it there because a lot of this was just through the tournaments and just through the cards themselves and between each different release, because as we had said earlier, they released constantly. It was like every 2 to 5 months there would be a new pack coming out in each arc, and you would get evolutions of certain characters and things like that. Because I remember when I first started playing, like the Mantis clan wasn't a thing yet. It was just called like Yoritomo's Alliance, and then they got upgraded and they finally got a keep of their own, and then you could play like a Mantis deck, and there was actually starter decks that came out for them eventually. And same thing, like I really liked the Ratlings and a lot of those creatures on like Naga, and you couldn't get
Jeff's
into
making
them.
A face.
dude, Ratlings eventually became a sanctioned clan too later on. I think in like Diamond or something like that. And so with those constant evolutions, plus with like your characters would evolve too, because you would have someone who's just like a normal samurai. He's like one of your foot soldiers, but then the next arc would come out and he would be leveled up and now he's unique and he's a little bit stronger, and eventually some of them became champions. So like Doji Kawanan, who was always my champion in my Crane decks, I have his cards from being just like a normal guy out there up to like his maxed out champion. And same thing when I was playing the unicorn decks. What was her name? Komoko was my champion. She was this badass battle maiden, but then they end up killing her off in one of the expansions, and so she becomes relegated to like a constellation. So there's like different cards that were like event cards of her constellation, and giving bonuses for Unicorn Clan players and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you sort of found out how the story was going too, was the next set of cards. You know, your guy Doji Reiju was a Crane Clan samurai in one set, and he joined the Dragon Clan in the next, or some people fell to the Shadowlands and and stuff like that. So it's just this crazy world that you got to see play out in expansion after expansion. And it was a cool sort of way that you can win. You can win via like brute force of military might, or you can win via honor, which there are a lot of ways to do that, which I know you as a Crane Clan player, Mark, excel at. Crane Clan are the best at winning via honor victories.
You need honor. It's all about how you do your duels and your chi and gaining just extra honor there, just making people bow out of duels. Dishonor your family.
What drew you to the Crane Clan, Mark?
You know, I don't know. They just had a certain look about them that was great. When I think of a lot of that kind of lore, like big brooding samurai are pretty cool, but I really like the dueling aspects and the look, how regal they were, kind of looking
very effeminate.
Sure. Their white hair was cool.
Dude, they're like elves.
Dude, the white hair was
Yeah,
cool.
they are.
The dueling, something just about it stuck with me, and so I was always on top of that. And I'm looking back on it too, because there's so many different clans. I guess I just always gravitated towards some of the cooler color items, like blue, green, purple. Like lion and dragon. Phoenix was okay.
Hey, fuck you,
like,
bro.
You know, but you gotta go with those cool colors.
I love that the three of us on here all gravitated towards a different clan. Jeff, I would not have pegged you for a crab person. I would have thought you would have been a lion for sure.
Yeah, you said lion a lot. Yeah, the right hand of the emperor.
Yeah, but you're a crab clan. What attracted you to them?
Well, you had mentioned it before. It's like Game of Thrones, but pre-Game of Thrones, and part of it is the Crab Clan watches the South Wall and defends Rokugan against the was it the Oni and everything like that?
Yeah, the Shadowland
Horde.
So, like, I just feel like all the clans and their infighting and, you know, the jockeying for position and stuff, that's always the part of Game of Thrones that I disliked, and that's the part of Legend of the Five Rings that I find irritating. I was like, we have important things to do.
Yeah.
And the Crab Clan is like a mix of the Night's Watch and the Stark, you know,
absolutely
house, like mixed together. And it's like, this is what matters. This is what's important. So I'll stand on the wall
but they're
Mark
all like
Francis
Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men.
Braggarts and drunks.
Well, because it's a hard life, man, and you don't know if you're gonna die or mutate the next one. And then, like, I'm so glad that Mark had a crab deck for me to play when I visited him, so that I could actually get to, you know, represent the clan that I like the most. But he had ratlings in it. I was like, oh, I don't.
Well, they would help.
Dude, they're right at the
wall. I know
wall.
they would be there. Maybe it's the commissar in me, but I have zero tolerance for
Xenos, dude.
that type of Xenos and Fear the Mutant and all of that. I find it disgusting.
It was so funny
Find
seeing
it
the dynamics,
man.
Dude, I like
It was
thinking
so
of the
funny
crab
seeing-
like having to break bread with the ratlings, and they're starting to go native up there, and like we need their help. No one else
you
is
remember
responding.
I kind of
the
like all the
dynamics.
off clans. I like the Crab Clan. I like the Unicorn Clan because of their history and how they were outside of Rokugan and it like returned. And it's like, well, what's that like? And they can only rely on each other really because they're all almost like foreigners to everybody else.
They were
and
the
I like
Mongols,
the Scorpion
dude.
Clan because somebody's got to play the villain.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
no,
Cavalry
Scorpion Clan is
moves.
one of the most interesting clans there were. But I love the dynamics of the card shop too because of this game is that sometimes the clans we would sort of keep to ourselves or be talking about stuff or people would be very adamant. Like Daryl, who is a great friend of mine. I grew up with him, but was also the manager of this store. Adamant Crab Clan player. Like he would often he's like, hey, if you want to play just Crab Clan, I got tons of extra cards to set you up. It's like you got to be dedicated. He was like recruiting people to the Crab Clan, and also just there were people that were like I was staunchly anti Shadowlands, and there were people that were not. They're like the sort of more devious ones that would play Shadowlands because they were very powerful decks, very seductive decks to play. But there were those of us that were just like, we will not tolerate this.
The only ones that could win by dishonor.
Yeah, it's just it was disgusting those Shadowlands decks. But yeah, the dynamics that it sort of created with L5R, and in terms of tales to astonish or admonish, there was a tactical tournament at Epic Worlds, the game shop that I was going to, and one of the great honors of my card game playing career is that in a shop with much older people that were in the military that were also Dragon Clan players, I was named the daimyo of the Dragon Clan, the leader for this store in this tactical tournament. I was the leader of the Dragon Clan, and led us to some pretty good prominence in this tournament too. We made an alliance with the Lion Clan, and in storyline of the game at the time too, the Phoenix and the Dragon were going at it because like the Phoenix were. We had to move out of our mountains because of some eruption, and the Phoenix were treating us like sons of bitches. So we kicked the
you
Phoenix
had that
Clan.
half-bred champion. Hitomi
He's not.
or
He was No, you talking about Hitomi? You're talking about Togashi.
Well, Togashi was a full dragon, but Hitomi
he was a
was
god.
like partial dragon.
Hitomi was
Got all
tattooed and had the
corrupted and
obsidian hand.
gross. Ugh.
Well, she had to have it so she could get the last scroll out of Togashi's chest. I digress. But like we kicked the Phoenix Clan's ass too, and I just remember like the because we would all look at the map separately and what was going on with troop movements and stuff, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. The game was progressing. The Lion Clan were like pinned down by the Phoenix and were in dire straits. And I remember the Phoenix Clan daimyo going back over to the map, and they were then surrounded by us. I'll never forget it. The daimyo going, "Dragon!" It was like, "Yup, you're fucked, son." The Lion ended up winning the tournament because of us. So since we were allied, it was sort of a joint victory. We didn't win though, but it was one of my favorite moments in gaming. Was taking out the Phoenix, like having them surrounded after they thought victory was assured. It was so much fun. Fucking loved L5R, dude. Oh, so cool. Jeff, what is sort of your experience? I know you gravitate towards the Crab Clan, but the game lives on. So tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, Fantasy Flight Games bought it out a few years back, and so they still have the living card game going on. Tournaments still influence the story. Prior to COVID-19, I was telling you that the Scorpion Clan had the Emperor's favor because of how
Which is bizarre to me.
How they had won, they had been winning certain tournaments or whatever, so they were doing well. I haven't been playing the card game just because I feel like with a living card game and the way Legend of the Five Rings is, you kind of have to continue to, buy into the cycles and stuff. So I was like, that's not really my thing. But I do like the role-playing game that it has. So like D&D style books, because like you guys, obviously, I'm really into the lore, so I like just reading up on, the different clans, the history of all of it, and just those stories. So I was just collecting those books, and they're a lot of fun. And they had other games on the horizon, on the docket, basically, but then Fantasy Flight Games having to scale back and being bought out, and then obviously COVID-19 dismantled like all gaming companies as far as things in production goes. They've had to kind of take those off the table for now, and one of them was like tabletop miniature like war game. It's like Battles of Rokugan or something like that, and so you would have been playing like army miniatures against each other like Warhammer Fantasy style, but that no longer exists, or if it's going to, it'll have to come back. Right now it's the card game and the role-playing game. Those are the things that they have, because the I mean, it's all just paper printing.
And
for
the
both of them, so
card
it's a lot
game,
easier.
there's no longer like chase cards in it. It's all pre-assigned decks now, and so you can get expansions to grow it, but it's no more that like chasing rarities and things like that. You get
like
every
that.
card in the deck.
Because
but
I don't think Fantasy Flight does that really with their other card
Yeah.
games, because they have that Marvel one too. I think you know what you get basically.
Yeah, but I hear like the level of entry just to get playing is pretty high, because they sell it as like a complete game in a box, and so you get like all these different clans. You can decide which clans you want, and it's enough for 2 decks. But all the reviews I've seen on it is actually getting that is enough to get like a taste to play a demo game. If you ever actually want to play a full game, you have to buy 3 starter decks to get enough cards to actually like build appropriate decks.
I think because it's oversampling. It's kind of like that Portal game that I had for Magic the Gathering, where it's like, you can play the game, but you can't really play the game. It's almost the cards come together to make one deck. So you're playing 2 mini decks against each other. I think those starter sets that Fantasy Flight Games has is it gives you a taste of almost all the clans. And so obviously that's not going to help you construct actual decks if you're trying to represent, the Crane clan or the Dragon clan or something like that. And so you do have to get those other cards. But they have more than just the starter sets now. They do have different cycles will emphasize a specific clan. Because I remember them talking about that, where it's like, oh, unicorn's coming up or something. So there was a lot of unicorn cards. And then whoever has the favor of the emperor, there's always cards involved in all the decks too. So Scorpion, if you were trying to build up on your Scorpion cards, there was a lot of availability and things to get.
I'm still thinking about killing the Phoenix.
James is on cloud 9 right now.
It's a great memory.
I'm glad it distinction. That was great.
I'm glad it lives on, and that role-playing game actually sounds super. Like that's the next evolution of, what L5R is. I compared it off the air to how we play Hero Quest. Is that there is no real role-playing component built into the card game, but the players took to it. So the fact that there's now an actual RPG, can you speak to it a little bit? Have you taken a good look at it?
I haven't played it. I've just gone through the books. But yeah, it gives you, your stats and everything like that, the different types of characters you can play. It gives you like sample stories. And then it has not only like the major source books and everything, but it has different like scenario books for things that you can do. It's like winter campaign at the Emperor's Palace, and so it's all like political intrigue. That's another thing too, is kind of how there's multiple ways to win the card game. There's multiple ways that you can kind of play or strategize your characters, whether it's just more the politics piece of it, if you want to emphasize on dueling, or if it's just more like straight up adventure. Because I was thinking of like what kind of campaign I would like to play, and it's like it would be so cool that maybe I'm a crab samurai, but I have to go on like this like petition mission to the throne or whatever to try to get more resources and supports at the wall. And so this crab samurai, who has nothing to do with all of the political intrigue at court, is now getting stuck in all of that and like unveiling this whole world to him. And it's like, that would be a fun one to do. And then another thing fun. That's a good story. If you're with a group of friends that all have a different clan like us, it's like maybe we're all a bunch of different Ronin that are just out there, and we end up just stumbling upon these different missions and adventures together as we're traveling through Rokugan, which would be kind of cool. Because doesn't the Dragon Clan even have like you go on a sojourn or something like that, and you travel to different parts of the land?
Because they have a few different, like the Dragon Clan, even in playstyle, they're kind of the jack of all trades, master of none type clan. They're very aloof from the rest of the empire. They live in their mountains. They have because their champion, who I still think is the coolest champion. The coolest. They have monks. They're not wannabe monks. They are monks. The tattooed men, the Izumi. I still think that they have the coolest champion because it was Togashi, who was the original kami. He was just living in disguise for generations, for like 11 generations, just assuming different identities, and everyone thought he was just a champion. But on the Day of Thunder, the second Day of Thunder, he revealed himself to be the actual Kami Togashi and like did battle in dragon form with Fulang before falling. It was fucking awesome. He also looked super rad too. But yeah, the Dragon Clan, they have these like tattooed men, monks and stuff like that go out and do their little missionary work and everything. And the role-playing game sounds amazing. I would definitely
I last time you visited, I meant to take the books out for you to like kind of look through and stuff. Next time I see you though, I'll make sure that you can kind of thumb through what I have, because I do have a few of them. So
one more thing on L5R is shout out to the honor counter that you would get. You could buy an honor counter that's was your particular clan, and so it was just this really cool looking ornate clan logo that kept track of your honor, like on a spinner kind of deal. It was pretty big.
Yeah.
Felt like very well made.
I always felt like the stronghold should have had it. I know some of the starter decks came with strongholds that had the wheel, but if you weren't using that stronghold, then
yeah, correct. Well, you could use it off to the side.
Paper.
The honor counter though was where it was at. I still have my Dragon Clan one somewhere. I got to find that. They go for a pretty penny online now. So yeah, but I'm glad that we got to talk a little Legend of the Five Rings here on the Best Damn Nerd Show. Raw Deal is another one that we referenced before. It was pro wrestling card game. That one was definitely near and dear to my heart as a huge wrestling fan. Played in many Raw Deal tournaments. Mark is holding up his Kurt Angle deck. Mark, what'd you think of Raw Deal? Because like for me, I think it's a very well made game. You choose your wrestler. They have a special ability that's unique to them and them alone, which is what allows you to sort of choose how your play style is. And Jeff, in your outline, you asked like, is babyface and heel a thing? It absolutely is. You can be a good guy or a bad guy, but you can't play both sides unless you're Kurt Angle. That was Kurt Angle's ability, is that he could play both face and heel cards, which at the time he came out was pretty good. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I never got too far. Like, I loved the cards because at the time we were watching a lot of the Attitude Era stuff, and actually playing in, I think I only ever played a handful of times. Did not get terribly far into it. I don't even remember the mechanics, man. Like
I played Little Cowboy Hat, and I'm going to equip it to my Kurt Angle.
It's with a ukulele.
I just got a crowd pop.
Drink your milk. No, I mean that's the thing. They all have their like
truck, and I'm going to drench you guys.
That honestly, that would be a card. Like Kurt Angle's one of his cards was reversal is where are your medals, and it's true. Mm-hmm. The 3 eyes were cards, and if you played all 3 of them, he got a huge bonus. Like. I think your opponent had to play with like their hand face up or something for the rest of the game. That might have just been intelligence, actually. The 3 eyes were ridiculously good, especially intelligence. Yeah. And so, everybody had their own ability. I was heavy into playing Taz. My human suplex machine deck was a force to be reckoned with on the Raw Deal scene. And I won several tournaments. My actual moment of failure, though. So I've won tournaments as Taz, and it was for at least an expansion or two was probably the best deck in the store was my Taz deck. But there was a player that played Triple H, and he was a cheater. And I'm not talking about in the game mechanics. I'm talking about in the fact that he literally stacked his deck and would try and cheat. And he got wind in the finals of this tournament that I don't cut my opponent's deck because I trusted these people that I played with. So he stacked his deck with only grapple reversals on top of the deck so that I couldn't get anything off, and he just smashed me in the finals of this tournament. And I lament to this day that I didn't, for once in my life, cut his deck, and that he would have been screwed. He would have had nothing.
Hilarious.
But I got him back in the Royal Rumble. I was the #1 entrant. And I was pulling a mini HBK. I was the Iron Man in the Rumble. I didn't win it, but when he came in there, he was like the odds-on favorite to win. I eliminated his ass but before he got to win. So that was like my vindication moment. And then in tag team play, I played with a different Triple H player, and we never even came close to losing a match. The dynamic between those two superstars at the time was just too good. And that was a lot of fun. I just thinking about, there was an unbeatable combo that I had in the game. I'm going to put you through the ring, which can't be reversed, and it doubles the damage of your next grapple maneuver. And then I would play this T-Bone Tazplex, which also couldn't be reversed. So it was like instant kill. God, those were good times. Good times with Raw Deal. Adam Zika would want me to bring up WCW Nitro. The as Mark holds up a Nitro deck, the very low rent equivalent of Raw Deal for WCW. Not nearly as well made of a game.
Less rules.
But less rules. And less expansions, less sense. Also, Adam Zika, he wrote into them when I guess there was like some error printed on one of his cards, and they sent him just like 2 boxes of Nitro cards as a make good because they were just going out of business anyway. So yeah, Adam Zika, very fond of WCW Nitro. Any other games that we didn't make mention of that you think we should? I never played Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know that was a big one for a lot of people. Obviously, there are various DBZ games over the years, and the Lord of the Rings card game was pretty popular when we were playing as well. But
Fantasy Flight Games has a living card game of Lord of the Rings as well. I haven't played it, but I know that people swear by it. Also, they have one for A Song of Ice and Fire, since they have all the A Song of Ice and Fire games. I never played the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters game, but I was a huge fan of the cartoon. I think it's a great cartoon, and that's how I used to imagine playing Magic the Gathering with I would say Heart of the Cards all the time when I was drawing cards, and pretend that all my creatures were these giant holograms, and we were on television playing against each other like athletes. It was insane. But yeah, that was a fun show. That's a fun story. You would like it if you got into it, James. You would like all the Egyptian lore and how it was based on like actual wizards fighting against each other in the past.
I mean, I love the phrase "Heart of the Cards" because
Heart of the Cards is great. Hey, you get the card that you need sometimes. That's just how it
happens, dude.
I mean, it does happen in the game.
Yeah. I really love reliving some of these card games, and I think we shall have to do it again. Because I still have a lot of ground that we could cover on L5R. We didn't even talk about the books or really break down clan by clan everything. But Jeff, you did a little something about how a Best Damn Nerd Show game might look. So I can think of no better way to put a bow on this episode than turning it over to Jeff, who has sort of theorized a BDNS card game, and much to my surprise and delight, created some faux Best Damn Nerd Show cards. So Jeff, if you would please share some of these. These are incredible, and just sort of how you picture a BDNS card game.
I made them on mtgcardsmith.com, which is where you can design your own Magic the Card games for free if you like. So, and also we'll share these cards in the Discord so people get to visualize like what we're referencing here. So I was thinking what a BDNS card game would look like is where we're almost like recreating the podcast, but you're playing cards to like win your debates or make your points. And so yeah, it has like conversation interrupts, or one of the cards I created was disregard opinion. And it even has like flavor text for some of them. So it's like, yeah, if you're trying to make a point and somebody makes like a counterpoint, you could just like forge through and like ignore what it is that they're saying. I made a Hatch joke card, of course.
Hatch joke is my favorite card. Let me read this. It's an interrupt. It's dialogue. It's got a photo of Hatch, 2 thumbs up with 2 salads in front of him.
My favorite picture of Richard.
Yes. And it immediately improve the mood of the show and take control of the conversation. A co-host can immediately play another Hatch joke as a reaction, which, by the way, sublime game mechanic and in tune with what a Hatch joke is. But the flavor text is so good. The room was half empty, and no one advertised to be on the panel was there. ... So good. So freaking good. Oh my god. And then I also love a Muppet Baby situation, which you got a great picture for that. It's a white magic sorcery. All co-hosts replenish their health and sanity by 5 points without exceeding their max. And the flavor text is, the lads were tuckered out after a long day at the con. They curled up together and had themselves a Muppet Baby situation. So the fact that you made these is so great. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad I remembered that I made them, because we came up with the idea for this episode a while back, and then obviously just other shows kind of came to the forefront, whether it was because of news or which hosts were available. And so yeah, I made these like back in October, and I'm glad I was able to find them in the account, because I forgot the website and everything too. But yeah, they're a lot of fun. Nobody has graded or commented on any of the cards that I created in the greater Magic the Gathering community. I was hoping to see some gold stars by this point.
Miss the Point is great too. It's got the Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor wrong photo on it.
Yeah, I thought of you when I created this card. It's black and red.
Yeah, the flavor text is, I do not go to laugh, James, ever the elderly. You son of a bitch.
Yeah, because one of the great things about Magic the Gathering, and Mark had mentioned it before, is the flavor text will kind of give you a snippet of what's going on in the story. So sometimes it'll quote a character from the story, or it'll be a description of one of the characters. So something I was doing with the flavor text was trying to quote a couple of us when I could.
I love it.
Yeah.
So it's so awesome. You did such a good job. Do you have any
I
others in the
challenge
works?
the other hosts and the listeners to create your own BDNS cards if you like, and share them with us in the Discord.
That's a great idea. You should, after this episode comes out, share a link to where you made those cards.
I'll share the link and I'll post all of my cards so that people know exactly what it is I'm talking about. Because it's a lot of fun, and just kind of going through all the different mechanics and creating your own Magic the Gathering card. There's options for everything, and I was really trying to come up with different styles for it. Like I did the black and red for the miss the point, because I'm just thinking about how angry and passionate you're being while you're having one of those stories. The Muppet Baby situation is of course a white card because it's just about healing. And then Hatch Joke, it's a blue white card, so it's a gold card, because I feel it's a thinking man's joke, but we're all doing it in good fun. Hatch, it's not a joke at Hatch's expense.
Yeah, of course not. God.
And then the disregard opinion was blue, black, and red. So yeah, I like doing color combo cards, so I usually do a lot of stuff like that.
Super awesome. I love that you did that. And yeah, please share them in the Discord. That's bestdamnerdshow.com/Discord. So you can see the cards, you can vote in the finals of our bracket battle. And I've really enjoyed going back and talking about card games with you. It was a big part of, my childhood and growing up and making some really long lasting friendships. I didn't even get into that, and just sort of, out of Raw Deal in particular, just some of the friendships that persist to this day because of playing that game with people and everything like that. So this was
the surface. This was a good introductory episode. I mean, we could do episodes on almost every single one of those games alone.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it is something that is, I think I said at the top, and going back, and I had almost not forgotten, but just haven't taken the time to reflect about just how important that period and playing these games was. And, so some of the triumphs, the highs and the lows of playing them and everything like that was just really special stuff. And I know a lot of people out there in the nerdosphere have similar experiences. And I encourage you all to seek out, some of these games, new and old, and enjoy them yourselves, and definitely seek out some of the oral history of Legend of the Five Rings. And learn more about just that awesome game. But that is going to do it for this edition of the Best Damn Nerd Show. Have a great week, everyone. And remember, if you're a nerd, always say it loud and say it proud.
Hey, everyone. Chris Seglia, CEO of the Tenno Media Network here. Thank you so much for listening to our content, but we need your help. Please rate us 5 stars, subscribe, and give us a shining review wherever you listen to this podcast. It really, really helps us out. And one more thing, please tell a friend if you can. Tell them Tasty Steve, Hanzo Gonzo, Markman, Rip, Ricky Replay, or someone who everyone loves sent you or something. That might help. Anyway, again, thank you for listening. And if you want more, make sure to check us out at www.ten-o.gg, www.tenno.gg.